The thing is, I did not think one private couple's party could end a marriage. 2 rules, 1 dress, and of course I called it safe. I told Daniel I wanted excitement with him, not freedom from him. That sounded honest until I stayed after he left. By morning, the quiet in our apartment already belonged to someone else. My name is Camilla Reyes. I was 34, and I directed private events for a luxury hotel group. The thing is, I believed I knew how to make controlled rooms feel safe and rare. 2 linen carts, 1 blue enamel key. No crime in wanting my own life to feel that way. That afternoon, the hotel event office smelled of citrus cleaner and hot printer paper. I stood over a table plan for a private anniversary dinner, moving 1 couple away from a speaker because rich people called discomfort a service failure. Nadia sat on the counter with her heels off and said I could make anyone believe a room had been built for them. I smiled because that was the performance I trusted. Calm hands, clean voice, no visible need. Daniel came in after 6 with flat shoes in one hand and coffee in the other. My husband knew my feet hurt after long events before I said it. He also carried the blue enamel house key I had left in his car that morning. He placed it beside my laptop like a small rescued thing. Years before, we used to cook cheap pasta every Thursday and pick one impossible trip from a travel site. Daniel chose places by train routes and weather. I chose them by hotel photos. We never booked anything. That was part of the charm then. He asked softly what had changed between us. What he meant was that he missed me. What I heard was that he had found another quiet problem to repair. I told him work had been heavy. Of course I said that. Work was safe. Work had doors I could close. Nadia waited until Daniel left before she said he was sweet in a way that almost disappeared behind itself. I told her not to be cruel, but I laughed before loyalty could catch my mouth. That night, in our apartment hallway, Daniel fixed the loose hook near the coats while I stood with my phone in my hand. The blue enamel key sat in the bowl by the door. I opened a private members-only couples website and kept the screen low against my palm. 2 photos. 1 password page. Safe, I told myself. Daniel came out of the hallway and saw the light on my face before he saw the screen. The kitchen smelled like rain that night because the window seal had never been right. Daniel said he would call someone about it in the morning, and that was Daniel in 1 sentence. Water came in, he found the source. A silence opened. He looked for the tool. I poured a 3rd glass of wine and watched the rain run down the glass. The thing is, I did not plan to sound cruel. I had practiced softer words in the bathroom mirror. Predictable. Stuck. Disconnected. Words that sounded like adult marriage, not hunger. I told Daniel our marriage had become too quiet. He set his phone down and gave me his full attention. Once, that would have pleased me. That night, it made me feel trapped under a clean light. He asked what I meant by quiet. I said we had become a routine. Work, dinner, bills, laundry, sleep. I said we were only 34 and 35, not 80. I said I did not want to wake up later and learn that I had spent my best years being safe. Safe. I used that word like it was a wound. Daniel listened. His face did not tighten. That was one of his flaws, though I did not call it a flaw then. Pain had to wait for permission before it appeared on him. He said we had been through this before. He named therapy 6 months earlier. He named Costa Rica 3 months earlier. He named the weekend we spent at a vineyard where I complained the whole room felt staged. He asked what this new restlessness needed, that the last 3 attempts had not given it. Specific, factual, one named pattern. What he meant was that he was tired of chasing a problem that kept changing shape. What I heard was that he was building a case against me. I picked up my phone and showed him the website. The page looked elegant. Dark background, gold letters, couples only, private membership, boundaries respected. A closed-door event in an upscale warehouse loft. I had stared at it for 3 nights and told myself that anything with good lighting and rules could not be dangerous. Daniel looked at the screen for several seconds. He asked if I wanted to go to a private couples party. I told him not to make it ugly. I said it was an exclusive couples night. I said some people only watched. I said there were hosts, rules, safety, consent, and no pressure. I said it could be something daring that we did together. 2 rules on the site, 1 glass in my hand, no crime. Daniel stood and moved to the window. Rain tapped hard enough that the silence between us had a rhythm. He asked if I wanted other people. That should have been the clean place. I could have said I did not know. I could have said I was scared that I wanted to be wanted by someone who did not know where we kept the spare towels. I could have said I was angry that he could love me every day and still not make me feel bright. Instead, I told him he was twisting my words. I said I wanted excitement with him, not freedom from him. I said I was trying to be honest before resentment became something worse. I said most people would sneak around, and I was sitting in our kitchen asking my husband to try one night with me. That sounded noble enough to stand behind. He asked where the idea came from. I said my therapist had talked about comfort zones. That was half true. She had never said private party. She had said shared novelty. I had found the website alone, sitting in my car behind the hotel after Nadia sent a link and said it looked like exactly the kind of room where Daniel might remember I was still a woman. Daniel asked if my therapist had suggested this specific event. I looked into my wine and said not exactly. His hand left the window frame. He asked why I had already made an account. That was the first active omission that became visible. Not the party, not the dress later. The account, the confirmation email hidden behind a password. The fact that I had already stepped toward the door and then invited him to bless the footprint. I told him research was not betrayal. He said research became something else when I hid it. Nadia texted while we were still standing there. She had sent another testimonial from a couple who said their marriage became alive again after one private event. I turned the screen down, but Daniel saw her name. He asked if Nadia knew more about our marriage than he did. What he meant was that he felt replaced in the conversation about his own life. What I heard was that he wanted to control who I spoke to. I said women were allowed to talk to friends. I said he always made private feelings feel like a report. I said if he wanted me to stop searching for air outside our apartment, maybe he should ask why the apartment felt sealed. He did not answer fast. That pause gave me room to sharpen myself. He said we could try something else. A weekend. A real therapy plan. A break from work. He said he would do more than fix things if I told him what more meant. I hated that offer because it came with no heat, no panic, no hand on my face, no sudden proof that he was afraid to lose me. I said he was proving my point. I said even desire became a project with him. His face changed by 1 inch at the mouth. Then he asked what rules I expected if he agreed. I had them ready too quickly. We would stay together the whole time. We would only observe. Either of us could leave at any moment, no questions asked. I said them with calm authority, like I was planning a hotel event and not leading my husband toward a room that already lived in my head. Daniel repeated the 3rd rule, leave at any moment. I said yes, of course. By Friday, Priya had stopped reacting in our work chat when Nadia joked about my boring, safe husband. Matteo changed the subject when I mentioned needing a wild weekend. Elise asked once whether Daniel wanted this too, and I told her everyone wanted growth until it required courage. The wider circle had started to hear something in my voice. I called it support when Nadia leaned closer. I called it judgment when Priya stepped back. Saturday morning, the confirmation code was already saved in my phone. The bedroom smelled of perfume and hot hair tools. I had bought new lingerie, though I told myself it was for confidence, not display. The dress was black, fitted, and careful in the way expensive things are careful. It let me deny intention while showing enough of it. Daniel stood near the wardrobe in black slacks and a button-down shirt. He looked good. That annoyed me because I wanted him to arrive as the reason I needed the night. Instead, he looked like the man I had married, calm and handsome and already bracing for something I had asked him to survive. He told me I looked beautiful. I asked if he meant it or if he was saying the right thing. He looked at me in the mirror and said he meant it. The thing is, I had trained myself not to believe quiet desire. I wanted desire that entered the room before I did. 2 earrings. 1 red lipstick. Safe, I told myself again. In the car, I reviewed the rules. Stay together. Only observe. Leave if either of us wanted to. Daniel kept both hands on the wheel and said the 3rd rule mattered most. I said he did not need to repeat it like a warning label. The warehouse district was warm that night. The venue door had no sign, only a number on steel. I pressed the buzzer and recited the confirmation code from memory. Daniel looked at me then, not angry, just tired in a way I refused to read. Inside, the room was softer than he expected, and more beautiful than I admitted I had hoped. Low lamps, plush furniture, a bar with polished glasses. Well-dressed couples who laughed like this was an opening reception, not a place people came to test the edges of their marriages. Monica, one of the hosts, welcomed us. She said consent mattered, boundaries mattered, no meant no, and anyone could leave at any time. Her voice was professional enough to calm a nervous person. It calmed me for the wrong reason. Daniel heard rules. I heard permission. We stood near the bar first. He ordered whiskey and barely touched it. I ordered champagne because it made my hands look steadier. Nadia texted fire emojis and told me to enjoy being alive. I sent 1 bathroom mirror photo before I could think better of it. Priya did not react. Clara was not in that world at all, but I thought of her anyway, because Daniel's sister had a way of seeing things before I had named them. Melissa and Jason approached while Daniel was still watching the room like a man checking exits. Melissa was blonde, calm, and warm in a way that made closeness feel planned. Jason had dark hair and a smile that knew how long to stay on a person before it became a claim. Melissa asked if it was our first night. I said yes before Daniel could say anything. I did not say he was reluctant. I did not say he had agreed because I turned his no into a failure. Jason asked if we were observing. Daniel said that was the plan. Melissa said some couples found it easier to begin with being watched because it kept them together while adding energy. She said it like a hotel package, simple and tasteful. I looked at Daniel. He looked back at me, and for 1 small second the room thinned. I could hear the bar shaker. I could see his whiskey glass, still almost full in his hand. I could see the man who had brought flat shoes to my office and pasta to our small kitchen and every careful piece of safety I had started calling dead. He asked quietly if I was still sure about the rules. That was the door. The untouched whiskey opened it. The 3rd rule opened it. His face opened it. For 1 breath, I almost saw that I had not brought him here to share something. I had brought him here to approve something I already wanted without him. I had placed the word safe over a room where I wanted strangers to want me, then asked my husband to stand inside it and call that love. My hand tightened around the champagne stem. Then I closed the door. I told myself discomfort was how growth started. I told myself Daniel always looked wounded when he was asked to be brave. I told him 15 more minutes would not hurt us. 15 minutes. 1 rule bending. No crime, I said inside my own head. Melissa led us toward a semi-private space behind sheer curtains. The fabric made the room look like a secret that still wanted witnesses. Daniel kissed me because I leaned toward him first. For a moment he tried. I know he tried. His hand was careful at my waist, and that care should have meant something. But the shadows beyond the curtain mattered more to me than his hand. I turned my face toward the room once, then again. I heard someone laugh softly nearby, and something in me brightened. Daniel felt the shift. His body stayed with me, but his attention pulled back like a person stepping away from a ledge. Afterward, he buttoned his shirt slowly. I was already thinking about the bar. He said we should go home. Quiet debrief. No raised voice. The quiet was the point. I told him not to ruin the night by making it small. He asked if I had noticed that I looked past him more than at him. I said he was being sensitive. He asked if the rules still mattered. I said of course they mattered, but rules were not supposed to choke the whole experience. We returned to the main room. Melissa touched my arm and said first nights could reveal what people needed. Jason said I carried myself like someone who had been waiting to breathe. I laughed too quickly. Daniel saw Jason's hand settle near my waist. I let it stay 1 second too long because I wanted Daniel to see another man know where to place attention. Daniel set his whiskey glass on the bar without drinking it. The sound was small. The people around us still spoke, still laughed, still moved under the soft lights. But the space around my husband changed. Nadia did not answer my next photo. The heat in the room had witnesses now. I came home at 4:30 because the night had ended, not because I had chosen my husband. That is the sentence I still avoid when I tell the shorter version. The apartment kitchen smelled of cold coffee and rain. Daniel sat at the table in the grey sweater he wore when he could not sleep. The blue enamel key sat beside him, removed from his keyring. It looked ordinary and wrong. The thing is, I had prepared for anger. Anger would have helped me. Anger could be called control, insecurity, old-fashioned fear. Daniel gave me a clean table, 2 mugs, 1 key, and no raised voice. Safe had become unbearable. He asked what happened after he left. I put my bag on the chair and said nothing happened that changed anything. He looked at the clock on the stove, then at me. Specific and factual, but this was no longer S2. He was not naming one incident, he was naming a pattern. He said I pressured him into the party, broke the rules, called his discomfort insecurity, kissed Jason where he could see, stayed after he left, and came home when the room was done with me. The words were plain. That made them harder to fight. I told him he was making one confusing night into a whole marriage. He said the night had only shown the marriage clearly. That was the first sentence I could not push away by calling it dramatic. I said it was just a kiss. Then I corrected myself and said it was not more than the atmosphere made it. Daniel asked if I kissed Jason again after he left. I looked toward the sink because the dish towel was folded too neatly over the handle. My silence answered enough. Daniel did not ask for details. He rubbed his thumb once over the edge of the blue key. His hand was steady, and I hated that steadiness with a force that should have scared me. He said he had gone to Clara's driveway before coming home. He said he sat there for 20 minutes because he did not want her children to see his face before he knew how to hold it. That was his vulnerability. Simple. Sad. No strategy. I heard performance. I told him Clara had always wanted to turn him into the wounded hero. He looked at me then, and something that had still been open in him went flat. By afternoon, Clara called. She did not yell. She asked if I understood that Daniel had not slept, that he had sat in his car outside her house with his hands on the wheel, and that he had asked her not to blame me before he even explained what happened. What Clara meant was that he was still protecting me while breaking. What I heard was that his family had started voting. I told her she was only hearing his version. She said she had heard enough versions of me lately. That sentence stayed in the room after the call ended. Priya texted once and asked if I was okay. The message had no heart emoji, no softness. I answered with a long explanation about boundaries, growth, and alcohol. She took 6 hours to reply and then wrote that she hoped I was being honest with myself. I deleted the thread. Nadia answered with one short line saying the night sounded intense. No fire emojis, no jokes, no voice note. I stared at her message longer than I stared at my own face in the bathroom mirror. 2 calls, 3 short replies. Safe people leaving quietly. I changed tactic that evening. Not remorse. Tactic. I made tea and placed it by Daniel's hand. I said I knew the night had been hard for him. I said maybe we had moved too fast. I said we could call it a mistake and make better rules. I made my voice low and soft because I knew softness still worked on him sometimes. Daniel did not touch the tea. He said he did not want better rules for a room we should never have entered. I told him that was unfair because he had agreed to go. He looked at the blue key, then at me. He said agreement under pressure was not the same as desire. He said I knew that because my whole job was reading what people wanted before they said it. There it was. My own skill turned around. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words did not come fast enough. The pause belonged to him. Later, Daniel stood in the hallway and removed his jacket from the shared coat hook. He also removed the blue enamel key from the bowl and set it on the kitchen table beside a plain folder. There were receipts in it, screenshots of messages, the venue confirmation printed on cheap paper. Not documents, not threats, just records. I told myself he was organizing because that was how he coped. The reader would have known better. I did not. By night, Matteo had stopped answering my jokes in the group chat. Elise moved 2 morning meetings away from me at work. Clara sent Daniel soup and did not ask if I wanted any. Something had broken inside the walls and I was still calling it repair. Monday evening, the dining room was too neat. Daniel had cleared the table except for the blue enamel key, his phone and the folder. No flowers, no wine, no little signs that this was a conversation I could soften with mood. The thing is, I wanted the room back. I wanted my husband hurt enough to fight and calm enough to stay. Those two things do not live in the same body for long. 2 chairs, 1 key. Safe. Until it was not. Daniel said we could talk privately without Jason, Nadia, Monica, Melissa, or the language from that place. He said we could use our own words. Final and clean. 1 real offer. Not repeated. I sat across from him and folded my hands like I was about to run a staff briefing. That was my performance when I had no honest ground. He asked if I wanted to repair the marriage or keep defending the night. I told him he was making the question smaller than it was. I said the problem was not one night. It was years of feeling cared for like a schedule. Years of being safe but not seen. Years of watching him fix my life while forgetting to want me in it. Then I said the one true thing. I told him he made me feel cared for every day, but he stopped making me feel desired. Daniel did not refute it. That was the worst part. He looked down at the table and let the sentence stand. He said he had confused making my life easier with being emotionally present. He said he thought love was easier to trust when it was useful. He said he understood that it cost us something. For 1 second, I had the clean truth in my hands. Then I used it like a blade. I told him understanding it now did not make him brave. I said he only wanted to talk after another man reminded him I was still alive in my own body. I said maybe I was sorry he was too afraid of a wife who still had desires. His face did not change much. The room did. He asked if I could hear myself defending Jason more clearly than I had ever defended him. I said Jason was not the point. Daniel said Jason had become the place where I put every truth I did not want to say at home. He said he could face a lonely marriage, but not a marriage where his boundaries became props. I laughed once, small and hard, because laughter gave me height. I said boundaries were easy for a man who had stopped reaching for me. I said he made safety feel like a polite cage and then acted wounded when I looked for a window. That was almost true. Almost true can do more damage than a lie. Daniel closed the folder. He said he would handle things properly. No legal words, no threat. The tone did the work. He stood and began moving through the apartment with a quiet that made every object sound loud. A drawer, a zipper, the soft click of his phone screen. He became logistical. I became louder. I followed him into the bedroom and asked what properly meant. He said it meant he was done arguing about what I already chose. I said leaving would only prove he never had the fire to fight for me. He placed 2 shirts into an overnight bag and said fighting for me had become another way of letting me hurt him. That sentence should have stopped me. Instead, I reached for my phone. Jason's name sat near the top of my messages because I had opened the thread too many times since Saturday. I typed while standing in the bedroom doorway with Daniel still close enough to hear my nails tap the screen. I wrote that Daniel could not handle me being alive in my own body. I sent it. That was voluntary, deliberate. Not wine, not music, not heat. My wound had its hand on the phone, but my thumb pressed send. Daniel looked at the phone, then at me. He did not ask to read it. He did not need to. I waited for Jason to answer. He sent a short line saying things sounded complicated and that maybe we should all keep calm. Agenda B. I did not call it that. I called it him being careful. Melissa posted nothing. Monica sent no warm host message. The private room that had made me feel chosen was not reaching back into my apartment. I tried Nadia. I sent 4 messages. She read them. A grey typing bubble appeared once, then vanished. That was all. No speech, no fight, no explanation. Just absence where permission used to be. Daniel walked past me to the hallway and picked up the blue enamel key. For a second, I thought he was putting it back on his ring. Instead, he set it in the bowl alone, without his other keys. Silent decision marker. I saw it. I rationalized it. I told myself he was making a scene with objects because he could not say what he wanted. But he had said what he wanted. He wanted a marriage where his pain did not need witnesses before I believed it. By midnight, he was gone to Clara's. He sent one message saying he would come by Wednesday morning for a few things and that we should both stay calm. I read the message 5 times looking for a crack. There was no crack. The refrigerator hummed. The apartment stayed lit. His side of the closet hung open. I called Jason once. No answer. I called Nadia once. Voicemail. The silence was not empty. It was organized. Wednesday morning, the apartment lobby smelled of floor polish and wet mail. I came downstairs for coffee because the machine upstairs had started making a grinding noise Daniel would have known how to fix. The blue enamel key was in my coat pocket, though I did not remember putting it there. Daniel stood near the mailboxes with Clara beside him. A man in a navy jacket held a flat envelope and asked for Camilla Reyes Whitman. The concierge looked down at his desk, not because he was rude, but because he understood enough not to watch too openly. The thing is, I still thought Daniel had come for his shirts. 2 people. 1 envelope. Safe had already left. The man handed me a petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary orders. I signed where he pointed because my hand moved before my mind caught up. The first hearing date was July 2nd. The temporary orders requested exclusive use of the apartment, preservation of joint accounts, and temporary responsibility for household expenses until the hearing. I read the first page, then the second, then went back to the first because the words had lined up too cleanly. Attached were the venue confirmation email, the confirmation code receipt, the messages where I promised we would stay together, only observe, and leave at any moment. There was location history showing I stayed after Daniel left. There was my Monday message to Jason, the one about Daniel being unable to handle me alive in my own body. No numerical evidence, just my own words walking back into the room. I said it was insane because it was one private party that got out of hand. Priya stood by the elevator with a paper coffee cup in her hand. I had not seen her come in. She said quietly that it was not one party if Daniel had been asking for the truth for months. Not cruel. Not kind. True. Daniel handed Clara his spare key and walked out before anyone else moved. He exited first. That mattered more than the envelope. I called Jason from the lobby. He sent one message saying he and Melissa never intended to be involved in a marriage problem, then blocked me before I could answer. I moved into a short-term apartment above a closed travel agency because Daniel received temporary exclusive use of our place. The joint account became restricted for household expenses until the hearing. Clara stopped answering. Priya stayed polite and distant. Matteo removed me from the weekend dinner thread, and Nadia never explained the typing bubble. Jason blocked me, and Melissa told Monica I had misrepresented our situation. Elise stopped assigning me private couples events at the hotel because my judgment had become a quiet hallway topic. The thing is, I thought the private party would prove I was not furniture inside my own life. I thought being wanted in a room full of strangers would protect me from becoming my mother. What it cost me was the only person who knew how to build a home around me without locking the door. The blue enamel key was not in the bowl when I came back for my coat. I went looking for a room where I felt wanted and lost the door where I belonged.